Hello everyone, my name is Jacob from jacobteacher.com, and in today's lesson I would like to analyze a poem with you. It's a very short poem and it was written by one of my favorite writers of all time. Charles Bukowski is his name. So let's get right into it. The poem is called Oh Yes. And once again the artist is Charles Bukowski. And I will read the whole thing through once, and then afterwards I'll go through line by line and break it down for you. Oh yes. There are worse things than being alone, but it often takes decades to realize this. And most often, when you do, it's too late. And there's nothing worse than too late. So as I said, it's a very short poem, one of my favorites. I really think he packs a lot of meaning into that short poem. But let's go through it line by line. There are worse things than being alone. So, of course, when we are alone, when we feel lonely, this feels really bad. We feel depressed. We feel that no one wants us. And that feeling of loneliness, it can really feel like it is the worst thing in the world. But according to Bukowski in this poem, it is not. There are worse things than being alone. The second line. But it often takes decades to realize this. So a decade is 10 years. And what is he saying here? He's saying it often takes decades to realize this. It means it takes many, many years for us to realize that there are worse things than being alone. So what he's implying here is that until we realize that loneliness isn't the worst thing, it seems like it's the worst. Going the next line. And most often, when you do, it's too late. So what he's saying here is that most often, when we do realize that there are worse things than being alone, it's too late. It means that we've waited too long. We've spent too much of our lives worrying about the wrong things. We've spent time worrying about being alone and maybe doing things to avoid being alone that we should not have done. And the last line of the poem. And there's nothing worse than too late. So he ends the poem talking about time again. It's too late. There's no more time. We can't take anything back. You can't reverse your life. And that is the most tragic part. We can only look backwards and realize what we know now. So what is Bukowski talking about here? Well, to me, there are two main points he's trying to get at. One of them is the idea of being comfortable with yourself. So many of us, we spend so much time worrying about being alone, and we do things that we know aren't good for us just to avoid being alone for a significant stretch of time. But as the poem says, there are worse things than being alone. Another thing that Bukowski's talking about here is time. We can't take back time. We can only look at what we've done and learn from the past. And there's nothing worse than being too late. So when we're spending time worrying about loneliness, doing things to avoid being alone, avoiding ourselves, we can't take that time back. There's nothing worse than being too late. So I'd love to know what you think about this poem, and you can tell me in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, hit the subscribe button below. That's all for now. I'll see you later.